Well, it's official, America. Joe Biden has just been declared the first blatantly fraudulent president-elect of America.
Joe Biden is now President-elect Joe Biden, and Senator Kamala Harris is now Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. It's probably a good time for Republicans to learn how to pronounce her name.
This process has been tainted. And if you taint it for one party, you taint it for the other party. If you taint it for one American, then you taint it for all Americans. And we're not going to stand for this.
What damage do you think that Trump will do between losing the election and the inauguration of Joe Biden? Maybe you didn't phrase it quite that way, but that's how I heard it. And we knew that he would be up to mischief. Separate and apart from trying to destroy the credibility of our elections, which we criticize other nations for doing, and now with all enemies, foreign and domestic, making assault on our elections. Well, we have one domestic. But apart from that,
the word transparency gets kicked around a lot, but there is nothing transparent about the disgraceful 2020 election process that blatantly crushed the will of the American people.
And as expected, those votes did indeed close the gap for Joe Biden. Also, the numbers coming out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, went in favor of Joe Biden.
They are still not in compliance. Our votes are being suppressed. We cannot count the votes properly. What's happening is they have moved the barrier up to 6 feet, but they took away the ballot machines that were in the front row and moved them to the back of the building.
The court order is in effect. They will not give us access, and the sheriff has decided not to come down here to enforce that court order.
We're there, supposedly observing, but we can't see. We're further away than I am from you all here. At least 100 feet away from open ballots that go back out of our sight. We can't see them. We don't know what's happening to them. It's just, there's no way for us to meaningfully observe the process from where they have us.
Tell us how many ballots approximately went through that process that you had no chance to observe?
Based on the counts that we've heard, it's about 125,000, maybe more.
The mummy, Biden, rose from his slumber to remind the American public of his insolence, fumbling giant words on the teleprompter in front of a crowd of corporocratic ghost jeeps.
I know watching these vote tallies on TV moves very slow, and it's...
Speaking of ghosts, of the many things Biden didn't mention was the overwhelming evidence of a ghost in the machine, as Dominion Software, the second largest seller of voting machines, flooded our national election with glitches favoring Joe Biden.
In Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity.
And there is also Benford's Law. It has been used in criminal cases regarding election fraud in the United States at the federal, state, and local levels. The law detected ballot stuffing in the 2009 Iranian elections, and the Washington Post reported on the instance of the 2016 Russian election, conforming purposefully to Benford's Law in order to hide vote rigging.
I've been active in this since 1958. That's 62 years. I am the angriest I have been in that entire 6 decades. You have a group of corrupt people who have absolute contempt for the American people, who believe that we are so spineless, so cowardly, so unwilling to stand up for ourselves, that they can steal the presidency and we'll wring our hands, bring in a few lawyers, and do nothing.
The videos of incidents of potential fraud poured in on social media as Silicon Valley did all they could to stop it.
I'm not going to show the name because the boss is here and don't want us to, and I can't take it. They won't let me. President Donald Trump, and not the only one we found in the trash.
Now am examining this ballot that was received by a Queens Village resident, and with all of the Democrat candidates pre-filled in on the ballot. I know a lot of people wanted to know, how did it get pre-filled in? Was it done by pen? Was it done by hand? As I put my hand over every one of the pre-filled in Democrats here on the ballot, I can see it was definitely not done by hand. It looks like it was done maybe by a stamper or a machine. Maybe it was run through a machine. This is a 2-page absentee ballot. Now, this is the envelope that it came in. Also, incredibly official looking. It says it's official absentee ballot envelope. And it is in several different languages. And it has a barcode, as you can see, the voter ID number.
Oh my God. Hi. Hey, so you with the elections? You're the Bureau of Elections, right?
Well, I'm just a volunteer.
We're just wondering okay, I understand you're a volunteer and you're just doing your job. What's all these? Are these mail-in ballots or what's these coming in?
What are these?
Uh-huh.
These are my in tape here?
What's that?
Am I in tape as well?
Yeah, because we're wondering why are ballots being handled down here and not up there with the elections. So we're curious about that.
Okay, yeah, the gentleman who's in charge of this, I think, should be right back down.
What's his name?
Gosh, what is his name? Do you know his name?
The order's pretty clear. I've been a lawyer for 30 years. What can you tell us what's unclear about it? You're a private lawyer and acting in the government capacity.
I'm a private lawyer who represents the city.
Great.
The city is evaluating it, and I can't tell you anything more than
They're evaluating a judge's order?
What the order means, and when they're ready to talk to you about it, they will. But I can assure you that they're not violating it under any...
The order is currently in effect.
They're not violating
You
the
guys
order
had
under any
8
interpretation.
attorneys. I think it was 8 attorneys entering your appearance on this. I don't understand why 8 attorneys need to evaluate this order. I did it all by myself.
Okay.
It says that no later than 10:30 today, you're to follow the election code, and my people, my clients, representatives, are to be within 6 feet of the process.
We have read the order, and we are complying with the order, and we will discuss it with you in a bit.
While the Stop the Steal Facebook group was removed, one of the fastest growing groups in Facebook's history, representing Americans merely trying to get to the bottom of what they were seeing, regardless of the bag of goods the Mockingbird media wants America to swallow.
We just haven't seen it. You know, it hasn't been presented. There's all kinds of stuff flying on the internet, but when we look into it, it doesn't pan out.
Just a week ago, Washington Post and ABC News put out a poll, and let's make sure that we realize these are major platforms, okay? This is the Washington Post of Watergate fame. It's also owned by Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world. ABC News, top-rated newscast in America. They put out a poll that said Biden was going to win Wisconsin by 17%. Now, to get this number correct, we have to move the decimal not once, we had to move the decimal twice to get in the vicinity of what's actually going on in Wisconsin, because right now the current actual is Joe Biden up by 0.6%. And I say current because we have not accepted that as final, and there will be a recount. But the more important takeaway here is that this is not just a mistake. This is disinformation. This is propaganda meant to suppress the Trump vote, meant to depress Trump supporters in Wisconsin. This is willful. This is a decision to try to put their thumbs on the scale. So we need to be aware of it, and you need to be incredibly skeptical during this contentious time in our country of anything that you hear from these legacy media platforms like the Washington Post and ABC and like Fox News and AP trying to get you to believe fake news that Arizona is decided.
There are far too many questions surrounding the nebulous explanation of how the historically fraudulent election process transpired.
Why was voting stopped in 5 or 6 states? I think it was actually 5 states and 6 cities for 4 hours. You know, why are ballots showing up? I mean, mail-in voting, it has a lot of problems. Some obvious ones. You send ballots out to everyone. You never know who actually receives the ballot, and when they come back, you could be sending them to people who have died without knowing it. You could be sending them to people who have moved from the state. So that already has a problem, but there should be one advantage, right? If these things are mailed in, presumably some of them will come in late, but wouldn't most of them be coming in months or weeks ahead of time? So why are we finding big tranches of ballots hours and in some cases even more days after the polls have closed? Shouldn't mail-in ballots already be there somewhere ready to be counted?
It was at about 4 a.m. that 3 vehicles arrived, a van, a Chrysler 300, and a Ferrari with 130,000 plus ballots. he said he was astonished as they started counting the ballots. He was astonished that every single ballot, like literally 100% of that 130,000 ballots were all Biden ballots.
We wouldn't accept these election results from a banana republic. How are the American people going to be asked to accept these results when we don't have basic protocols for democracy in place? I've never seen anything like it.
In Arizona, the media determined the outcome and never walked it back.
If the current trends continue, as we have seen, because we follow the science, President Trump is going to overtake Joe Biden, and we are going to win Arizona.
Fox News declared Joe Biden the winner, but was swiftly corrected. Regardless, the legacy media propaganda mafia never corrected the election map.
Congresswoman, and I know you've been very vocal, and there have been people all over the place who have been very vocal about our decision desk and the call that they made on election night. They stand by that call as of right now, and they say that the votes will not, the remaining vote will not go to the percentage that he needs it to go.
So here in Arizona, one of the biggest issues that we have right now is the use of a Sharpie pen that was used at the different polling places. On the Democrats' own website here in Arizona, they actually say do not use red ink or permanent marker because this may result in a false read by the ballot machines. So that comes from their own website. So when we showed up to polling stations, they only gave us Sharpie markers. I specifically said, I don't want to use a Sharpie marker. Do you have a regular pen? She said, no, I only have a Sharpie marker. Use it. You're going to be fine. I said, what if it bleeds through to the other side? She said, don't worry about it. We've been doing it all day. It's not a big deal. So we went ahead and used Sharpie markers. You run it through the machine at the end. When you get done voting, you run it through the machine at the end. And then what happens in Arizona is you can go to this website to track your ballot. And from what I have seen, and it's not just me, it's like I have groups of neighbors and friends that as well this has happened to. But what happens is now when you go to check our ballot, it says that it is like for me, personally, it says I'm not even a registered voter now. And a lot of people, it says that their ballot it hasn't been read, it hasn't been counted, it doesn't exist.
Okay, wait a second. And all those people behind you, did they have similar issues?
Yeah, these are my neighbors, yes.
Oh, all of you?
In Michigan, at least 4 absentee voters were older than the oldest person on record, including Jason Lemoyne Daniel, who was born in 1850, making him 170 years old. In Wisconsin, there are 3,684,726 active registered voters. They counted 3,288,771 votes. That's an unbelievable 89% turnout. Not to mention that Joe Biden, who averaged less than 100 people at his rallies, while Trump averaged in the tens of thousands, has somehow broken Obama's voting record with 50.4%, a manufactured blue wave that should have flipped the Senate and strengthened the House, but it didn't.
Virginia Representative Abigail Spanberger barely won, but said Democrats, quote, lost races we shouldn't have. She said defund the police almost cost me my race because of an attack ad. Don't say socialism ever again.
And we are supposed to believe that Biden gained over 1 million votes in Pennsylvania since the morning after the election. And also that it is completely normal that thousands of Nevada votes were cast by non-residents. And most of all, we're supposed to believe that America overwhelmingly, historically, voted for a senile, corrupt pedophile globalist over their own future, the future of their children, and the future of America.
This is about the American people. Do the American people have the right in an honest election with honest, legitimate ballots to pick their leader? Or are we now just sheep to be dominated by the high-tech businesses, the news media, and the various political machines? And are we supposed to surrender? So I think this is this is a crisis in the American system comparable to Washington on Christmas Eve or comparable to Lincoln at Gettysburg. This is a genuine, deep crisis of our survival.
John Bound reporting.
Now
Now it's easier than ever to have band.video on your iPhone. Simply go to band.video with your Safari browser. Then you click the share button at the bottom of the screen. When the menu comes up, you simply click Add to Home Screen. It will then ask you to name the app. I suggest band.video. You will now have band.video app on your home screen, despite the fact that Tim Cook tried to stop it. The globalists think you're lazy, but by taking a little bit of action, you can override them, have the app, and then tell others about it so they can get the app. So it's up to you whether you want to defy big tech and click the share buttons below on your email, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, however you want. Be sure and share band.video.
Cognitive dissonance is a major issue amongst the left. It can be very stressful dealing with facts you refuse to accept. If you have a family member suffering from this degenerative mental condition, buy them a bottle of Ultimate Fish Oil from InfoWarsStore.com. Studies have suggested that fish oils and fish oil supplementation can slightly lower blood pressure, decrease triglyceride levels, decrease the growth rate of plaque, and provide a soothing reduction in inflammatory responses in joints and the digestive system. Recent studies have suggested that high EPA and DHA fish oil can stimulate immune function by increasing the concentration and activity of immune cells. Get your Ultimate Fish Oil today.
There's a reason the globalists are fighting so hard to shut us down. They know the spirit of 1776, the spirit of the Renaissance, shines brightly from InfoWars. That spirit of fighting evil is growing stronger, not weaker under attack, because your will is strong. And make no mistake, this is a war of wills. InfoWars' main mission is to expose the globalist blueprint, rally humanity, and stop them dead in their tracks. As modern Paul reveres, it's critical for all Americans to do their part in the animating contest of liberty to expose darkness and promote freedom and a pro-human future everywhere we go. The quickening is here. We are now entering the crossroads, and InfoWars is rising to the challenge. InfoWars and our dedicated, committed crew is fighting harder than ever. We live in the most historical times ever seen in the history of our species. Everyone can see it, they can feel it, they can taste it. But now, it's all going to the next level. Evil is rising, and to challenge it, good is rising as well. The fact that you're awake, the fact that you're involved, the fact that you're engaged, even in the smallest way, is giant. It's massive. It's consciousness. Now, as the year 2020 dawns, we must redouble our efforts like never before in the fight to bring down the deep state and defeat the globalist anti-human system. But the only way our information gets out is when you spread it and when you support it by funding our operations, which are your operations, at InfoWarsStore.com.